Hey everybody, this is Games Plus James and welcome back to our 2D platformer tutorial in Unity. So today we're going to take a look at making our death look a bit more kind of obvious, because at the moment you start here, run these spikes, you just kind of magically teleport back to there. It feels a little bit empty. It doesn't feel interesting. Do you know what I mean? So the way we're going to do this is we're going to add some particle effects, which are super handy dandy little things in Unity that are really kind of fun and useful to use. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to game object up here. We're going to click particle system to create a new particle system, and you can see, look, it's already creating lots of floaty little bubbles that we don't really want at all. So what we're going to do, we're just going to rename this one to, we'll call this one death particle. And since this is a very pixely looking game, it doesn't really fit having these kind of soft round little things appearing. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down here, click on renderer, and instead of default particle we're going to click this little circle beside default particle, which opens this little selector menu. And these are kind of default things that come with Unity as they are. I'm going to click this white one here. So look, now we've got lots of big blocks, which again, we don't really want big blocks, but we're going to sort that out very soon. We're going to change the color of this to red. I'm going to go for a little bit darker red. A little bit brighter actually than that. There we go, that looks about right. Because it's a death animation, so we want it to look like your player's exploding or something like that. We're going to change a few little variables here. Particles are really interesting in Unity just to play around with, so I'd recommend that, like, fiddle around with all the different values that you find here and see can you find something that looks interesting to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the start speed, we'll leave that at 5, but we're going to change the lifetime to 1 of that, and we're going to change the duration to 1. And rather than all these little things slowly floating up away like that, we're going to click on emission here and change the rate from 10 down to 0. And then there's this burst thing here. We're going to click on the little plus sign in the bottom right, click on that, and it creates a little burst that doesn't really look like what we want at the moment, but we'll sort that out. We'll leave it on 30 particles, that's fine. We're going to click on shape here, and as you can see in the scene view here, it's making it from this little cone. If we click on this 2D button, it'll switch back to 3D, and you can see it's a 3D cone, because all the particles work in 3D. There's no like specific 2D particles in Unity yet. Hopefully that'll be something they'll add eventually, but at the moment it's fine. It works. They work perfectly for what we want to work for. So we'll switch back to our 2D view. Go back over here. We don't want a cone because that doesn't make any sense. We'll change that to a sphere. Now look, we got a little explosion of things. It's already starting to look a bit better. We'll bring this radius down to about the size of the player. So what's that? That's about 0.4, around about that. It's close enough. But those blocks are still way too big. So we'll go back up here to our start size, and we'll drag that down to about that size. I think that's a relatively good size. But at the moment they just kind of suddenly disappear and stop. We don't like that. We want them to fade out. So if we scroll down here, and we'll go to size over lifetime here, and hit the little circle beside it to turn it on, then click it. Now we have this little box that can, again, if you play around with different values, if you right click here, it'll see, look, now we have like randomly sized different blocks, which could be something interesting. You might want that, but we don't want that. So we'll click back to curve, and once you click on the block here, it opens this little section. So we're going to go to the right hand side of this, click on it. Oh no, that's not. Why isn't that happening here? Oh no, actually no, even better. What we'll do is we'll use one of these preset patterns here. What you can normally do is like, oh, there we go, add key. That's what I wanted to do, sorry. So we'll add a key, drag it over to the right, and drag it straight down. So now look, now we've got a big explosion of things, and it shrinks down to be nice and small, but it's blasting out way too far. It looks very violent. So what we'll do, go back up here again. We'll change the start speed down to 3. So there we go. Now it's exploding out nicely, and what we want to do also is go to gravity multiplier and put that at we'll say 1. So now it looks like it's fallen when you get hit. So that's fine. And we also want to make sure, but you always want to make sure with particles, unless it's something that's going to play the whole time, you have to remember to turn off looping, or else it'll keep playing the whole time. We don't want that. So we'll just hit stop there on that too. So now we've got an effect for when you get killed, but we also want an effect for when you spawn back into life. So we'll just duplicate this one. So click on it in the hierarchy and hit Control and D to duplicate it. And rather than being the dark green, to make it easier to see what we're doing, we'll turn looping back on, just so we can see what we're doing with the particle system. But rather than being the dark red that we have there, we'll make it the same color as the player. So we'll make it a nice kind of green color. So there you go. But we don't want so many particles appearing either. So we'll go to emission. We'll turn this down, maybe only down to 10, say. And I think we'll turn off the gravity multiplier as well. Again, we'll actually make the lifetime even shorter. And the speed we'll pull down to, say, 1.5. So there you go. Now we've got 2 little particle systems all ready to go. We have to remember, of course, to turn off looping here as well. So now, there we go, perfect. We should actually rename this one as well. We'll rename this to respawn particle. So now we need to determine how are we going to make these appear when the player gets killed. And the obvious way to do that is through scripting. So we'll go back to our scripts folder here, and we'll click on Level Manager. We'll double click on it to open it, because Level Manager was what determined where our player respawned to and when he's killed. So we'll open it up here, and then it's very, very simple to add these little animations. What we'll do is go public game object, and we'll call the first one death particle, and we'll do another one again, public game object respawn particle, and there we go. So what that'll do, it'll create a space in the inspector here for us to drag those objects into in a second, which we'll show now in a minute. And here's the little bit of code that handles the respawn. So this is the point here where the player is being respawned, or being repositioned. So before he's repositioned, what we want to do is instantiate, if I can spell it correctly, there we go, instantiate. So what instantiate does is, this is what it'll create a copy of whatever object we decide that death particle is, for example, or a respawn particle. So, like for example here, we're going to instantiate our death particle, and it'll create a copy of the death particle and within the world, and we need to decide where is that death particle going to appear. So where we want it to do is where the player was when he gets killed. So we'll go player dot transform dot position, and that'll set the new death particle effect to the exact position the player was when he gets killed. And we also need to go player dot transform dot rotation, because you have to put a position and a rotation when you instantiate an object. And, you know, it's very important to remember that, because sometimes I forget that, but I can create silly problems for you. But just remember, you have to have a position and a rotation when you bring a new object into a scene. So then we make that death particle, and then the player moves to the new checkpoint position, and what we want to do is instantiate the respawn particle effect. So we'll go again, instantiate, open the bracket, respawn particle, and this time, rather than putting it at the player that transform that position, we'll put it at the checkpoint position. So we'll go current checkpoint dot transform dot position, and again we have to put the rotation as well. So we'll go current checkpoint dot transform dot rotation. Close our bracket and put our little commas there. So now we'll save this, convert to line lines if you need to, and pop back into the game. We'll hit play, and hopefully now, oh no, actually, we shouldn't have hit play, that was a mistake. what we need to do is click on Level Manager here. No, even we'll take another step backwards again. What we actually need to do is from our death particle and our respawn particle, we need to create prefab objects, much like we did before with the spikes and the checkpoints. So we'll drag these in here into our prefabs folder, death particle and respawn particle, and we'll actually go ahead and delete the two of these from the scene because we don't want them appearing when the script starts. So we'll go back to our level manager here and see we've got a space here for death particle and we've got a space for respawn particle. So what we'll do is drag our death one here and our respawn one there, and now it knows which objects it has to instantiate at the correct time. So we'll hit play this time and we'll just pop in there, and there you go. Look, we got our death and we got our green coming back to life. Kind of looks like fireworks almost. But like I said, playing around with those particle effects is actually really interesting. But we've got a bit of a problem here because it's happening very quickly. Everything's happening at the exact same time. It's too immediate. So for example, if we go over to this thing over here and die, we kind of immediately, we can barely see that red bit there. But say if we were suddenly heading left, no, we don't know where the respawn thing happened at all. It's very empty feeling. You're still kind of just magically warping there. So what we're going to do is create a bit of a delay between dying and between respawn and back at the checkpoint. And again, it's a very simple little thing to add to the game. So we'll go back to our level manager script here. And now this whole little section here is very this is what handles our death